in the history of humanity.
Right, we can't sit still, folks. We have to rally in Washington, D.C. tomorrow. Go and march in the Pentagon. It's the 40th anniversary, actually, when we marched in the Pentagon against Vietnam. It's historic. Should be 500,000 people there, even though it might be cold. So just get down there and participate in this massive movement for truth. God bless us.
Absolutely. Oh, there's another thing that William wrote about in this book was the implants. Now, back then, in the 80s, they were starting to test them on dogs. They would put a little implant in them.
Yes.
The other thing is I received several phone calls from people asking me why I didn't say anything about Anna Nicole Smith case last week. And that's because the reason I didn't is because nothing has changed. I know in the news now they're having a so-called investigation. Let me just explain to you what's going on. This is a huge conspiracy. It's not just Howard Stern who is involved in these murders. It's a huge amount of people behind him, and nothing has changed. This plan is still for him to get the child and for him to then get the money, and then these people who are behind Howard Stern are going to assassinate him. So now there's one little wrench that could save the baby and from any of this happening. Billy, Daniel's biological father, is now asking for his sons to be exhumed and buried in Texas. If this happens, if the judge on that case is not paid off, and then it changes everything, because Anna Nicole's wish was to be buried with her son. So then her body will be exhumed. And then they'll get some proper DNA, because DNA has been played with. The Garson, another story is the Garson, and Anna Nicole Smith. A lot of people didn't hear me say this the last time. She was supposed to go for DNA tests with her daughter on February 9th. And interestingly, she was murdered the day before, so that could have never happened. Now, Judge Garson is on trial. This is the judge who was caught for stealing, not stealing money. He wasn't stealing any money. He arranged for some woman to lose custody of her children. He was being paid off. Now, this goes on all the time, and Judge Garson is not the only judge. But fortunately, we have a district attorney, Hines, who he goes after corrupt judges. So the Garson trial will be starting on Monday at 320 J Street, second floor, and Judge Barry is the one presiding over this case. It's important to be there to make sure this judge does go down.
Oh, Dyandria, I just wanted to let you know that Judge Garson is behind the protection of the heroin rackets in Greenpoint, New York.
Okay, all right, that's more, but at least we'll nail him with the Hedda case.
Well, the 94th precinct is involved in the heroin protection too, so that's the precinct, so that he won't get taken down on that.
No, I'm sure he won't. The 19th precinct, what Dean Lauren is talking about, is in the Upper East Side, and it's the most corrupt precinct there is, and the most corrupt district attorney is Robert M. Morgenthau. In my particular case, a cop raped and sodomized my daughter, and Robert M. Morgenthau has never prosecuted with all the evidence against the cop. I have a couple of bits of other information.
And they finagled the cop's name so that he was get his pension and wasn't penalized.
That's right. They changed it on the State Central Register, right? You saw that document.
Yes, I did.
And Robert M. Morgenthau is behind that.
And I also saw when you had your daughter, and I taped you, and she said how wonderful and happy she was to be with Mommy. She wants to be with Mommy forever and ever. And the courts put you in jail and awarded custody to the pedophiler.
That's right.
Believe it or not.
Believe it or not. I received a phone call yesterday from a lady. Her name is Deborah Hicks. And her ex-husband is a convicted kidnapper and child. He's on the pedophile list. He's a level 2 lifetime sex offender. And Judge Helen C. Sturm from the Manhattan Family Court is giving this woman a hard time and taking the side of the husband. Now, don't let that surprise you, because Judge Helen C. Sturm was on the same case with the cop who raped and sodomized my daughter and allowed him to get custody. So that's...
So people may wonder, why is this going on? My conjecture is, and I may be wrong, is that they just want to breed people for the military. We've got military bases all over the planet, and so the kids are institutionalized, and they're either set up for the cops and robbers game and join the prison industrial complex, or they go into the military, because they separate the siblings. You know, the foster care situation is really strange. I mean, of course, if a mom's a crackhead or abusive, yeah, we need foster care for abusive parents. But what happens when they separate the brothers and sisters? Then their own family, their sense of identity and unity is really thrown into a tailspin. And then what happens is the kids become institutionalized, and that helps the system, which is a corporate, capitalist, greedy mafia of military, police, New World Order, global agenda.
It's sort of Orwellian, because one of the things Orwell wrote in his novel 1984, that power is tearing human minds apart and putting them back together in a manner of our own choosing. He says if you can alienate a man from his past and from his family and from other men, right, that was real power. Right?
Yeah,
That's how the people in power measure their power. Obedience, he says, is not enough. You have to make them suffer.
Exactly.
And disenfranchise the family and alienate them when mind control them with TV and these iPods. And we live in a society where everyone's sort of stuck in their own little paradigm and hypnotized by this consumer television that makes you want to buy more cars even though you're in debt,
well,
and not question authority.
On that note, Frank, we will start talking about what this particular program is about. It's about 9/11. I just want to show you the cover of this book. If you could get a close-up, please. This was written by a government official. He worked for the Defense Department. The title is Behold a Pale Horse. His name is William Cooper. Now, William Cooper, everybody thinks everybody who works for the government is corrupt. That's not true. This guy was so honest. When he found out what was planned, he got out of the government, and as a matter of fact, in 2001, the local sheriffs in his town shot him in the back. This book was published in 1993, which means it was written years before then. He explains why he left the government. He found out, they actually told him that there was a plan that in the year that the towers went down, that they were going to create, our government was going to create a major disaster. At that particular time, they didn't know, hadn't decided what the major disaster was, but as we all know, it ended up being the demolition of the towers. So they also told him, now this, like I said, this book is published in 1993, and all this information's here. It said that the purpose of causing the major disaster was to create a war in the Middle East for the oil lines, and then also to create, to disseminate our Constitution. We're no longer going to have the constitutional rights that we were supposed to have, that our forefathers had set up for us. So with that, Frank wants to tell you about a protest tomorrow, and
yeah, there's a march in Washington tomorrow, St. Patty's Day. A toast to all you fine laddies. Well, the good patriots will be on marching on the Pentagon tomorrow, saying this is not what we want. We don't want a criminal, out-of-control mafia government killing people on a daily basis in Iraq and Afghanistan. Those people want us out. Do we want Chinese soldiers who don't speak English running around with machine guns, telling us what to do? Foreigners are not welcome, especially in the ancient cultures of Iraq, which is so sensitive and beautiful. And unfortunately, there's no more museums or libraries or beautiful palaces that Saddam built. Everything has been destroyed. But they're building this enormous thing in the green zone, which is with McDonald's and all this